The heat hanging over Key West International on July 19, 1981 felt thick enough to chew. Yet Zach Lovell strode the ramp as if humidity were just another stage light. He flicked a cigarette, watched the ember die, and flashed. The crooked grin that sold 2 million records. Tonight, Black Honey would play a secret gig in Miami. In the morning, contracts would make them gods. One short hop in a chartered Learjet truly, what could go wrong? Inside, new leather scent mingled with jet fuel. Zach tossed his duffel, stretched vertebrae popping like snare hits. The others filed past guitarist, drummer, keyboardist, shadows, not yet characters in his story. He wanted silence and the hum of engines beneath the melody in his skull. He set a battered cassette deck on the mahogany table, pressed record, and hummed for descending notes. Minor key, make it honey, he whispered. The cockpit door stayed shut. The pilot, introduced only as captain, preferred mystery. Stars didn't need selfies with the help. Thunder growled over the gulf. Through the oval window, a bruise spread across the sky. Zach licked sweat from his lip, certain the storm would break long enough for them to surf above it. Lightning is just God's strobe, he told the recorder. Minutes before boarding, their manager, Vaughn Mercer, had hustled alongside the plane, insisting Zach sign posters for a radio contest. Vaughn's Rolex flashed. His smile never reached. Bloodshot eyes. Zach scrawled 2 autographs, then shut the hatch in the man's face, relishing the dull thud that followed. Fame meant never begging permission. The cabin's tiny luxury glowed, swivel chairs, mirrored drink cart, appealing sunburst record sticker. On the Lav Dory Minder, the label owned their souls, until album 3. Across the aisle, the guitarist plucked a glassy riff, half lullaby, half funeral march, while the drummer tapped nervous paradiddles. They communicated in glances. Stillness meant safety. The captain's ramp briefing had been curt. Turbulence likely, stormlines unstable, keep belts fastened. Zach barely heard. Headphones pumped the rough mix of Black Water Baby into his skull. He remembered one phrase. If we hit weather, trust me. Takeoff slammed him into upholstery. Then the jet clawed into sunlight. The ocean looked like tarnished glass. He played back the hum, layering lyrics no light but the spark inside. 27 minutes out, the belt sign pinged off. Zach rose toward the minibar. Turbulence slapped the jet. A red annunciator blinked. Intercom crackled. Seatbelts back on, the captain ordered, voice distant as radio static. Zach sat. Clouds towered like cathedrals, lightning spidering their roots. A drop punched the jet. A cymbal case burst from a bin and spun in the aisle. Cap, can we climb? Zach called. Negative. Storm tops, 55,000. Click. After the bounce, the guitarist asked, should we turn back? Zach raised a hand, palm forward. Command accepted. Questions died. He pressed record again, capturing rattles, metallic groans, wind moaning across aluminum. Sound was truth. It never lied like people. In a sudden lull, came 3 metallic snaps behind the bulkhead, like latches sliding. No flight attendant rode this charter. Zach frowned, but another downdraft buried the noise under collective gasps. Rain hammered metal. Cabin lights died, replaced by pulsing strobes. Faces flickered wide-eyed, crimson ivory. Masks dropped. Alarms overlapped in mechanical panic. Outside, lightning revealed the sea. An ink-black plane slashed by whitecaps, somewhere below. Reefs waited like teeth. Mayday, Mayday Lear, 9-0. Static swallowed the captain. Metal tore near the left wing. The jet banked hard. Zach forced the mask over his mouth, heartbeat sinking to warbling klaxons. Altimeter voices droned. 3,000, 2,000, too fast. Ears popped. Blood tasted copper. He staggered forward, pounded the locked cockpit door. Open, up, no answer, only counting. 1,800. Lightning strobed. 1 silhouette at the controls, not 2. The sea rushed closer, lights painting ridges of foam. At 500 feet, the cassette clicked off with a tiny final snap. As altitude bled. Zach's mind flashed to Tennessee creeks and his father's warning music swallows men whole. Even as fear knotted his gut, curiosity intruded. If they lived, this descent could become the intro to the greatest song he'd ever write. Dying young might sell even more units. Legends burn brightest before they wink out. The descent grew chaotic. Overhead compartments spewed luggage like stage props hurled by an angry god. A fractured guitar neck ricocheted off the ceiling and landed across Zach's knees. The splintered maple smelled of sweat and vanishing dreams. He shoved it aside and tried the intercom. But the line emitted the same hollow rasp as an unplugged amp. He turned to the drummer. "Keep count, man, for time. Breathe on the downbeat." The ridiculous instructions steadied them both. The drummer nodded, lips moving silently. 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. The keyboardist cried behind her mask, tears floating in zero-G droplets before splotching the upholstery. Another surge of wind slammed the jet sideways, gravity skewed. The aisle became a skidding ramp. Zach braced an elbow against the console table, cataloging every sensation, the metallic shriek of stressed rivets, the ozone scent of lightning just outside, the sour panic sweat perfuming the cabin. He wanted to remember it all. Through the windshield slit, he glimpsed luminescence, greenish flickering, St. Elmo's fire dancing along the wipers. The phenomenon looked eerily beautiful, like neon veins pulsing over a dying heart. Then, calm. Engines spooled, wind softened to a moan beneath the hull. For 3 heartbeats, the Learjet glided, weightless. Zach felt a holy hush, as if the storm itself drew breath to sing. It exhaled in a roar of thunder that shattered the silence and pitched them into freefall. Hours later, an FAA controller watched a radar blip fade from green to gray. In Washington, junior NTSB analyst Anna Ortega was paged from her dorm room cot to review the jet that vanished over Blackwater. The storm kept playing, but the song was far from finished. Anna Ortega's pen hovered above her notebook while the Learjet's altitude trace quivered on the green radar screen beside her. It was 3:17 a.m., July 20th, 1980, barely 6 hours since Black Honey vanished. The improvised NTSB command post inside a Key West hangar dripped humidity and caffeine. She pressed play on the portable reel. The final exchange broke through static. Lear 90 Hotel. Vectors. Storm cell closing. Zach Lovell's baritone cut in. Raw. He knows. A hiss. Then silence. Anna replayed the snippet 3 times, searching for background clues. Breathing patterns, metal clicks, anything. Why was a passenger on the radio? And who, exactly, did Zach accuse? At dawn, the public hearing opened under arcing halogen lamps. Reporters, fans, and grieving relatives pressed against barricades. The storm that swallowed the jet still lingered. Offshore, rumbling like a distant bass drum, band manager Vaughn Mercer strutted inside, wearing a powder blue suit and an apologetic smile polished for cameras. His cologne Trident failed to mask jet fuel odor inhabiting the hangar. Lead investigator Dan Breslow barked. "Roll the tape." Anna obliged. When Zach's cryptic phrase echoed through loudspeakers, Vaughn's jaw tightened, though his smile never slipped. Breslow leaned forward. "Mr. Mercer, was any passenger authorized to use cockpit comms?" "Not at all," Vaughn replied smoothly. "Musicians, not pilots." Anna interjected. Mr. Lovell sounded frightened. "Any idea why?" "He hated flying. Storms made him paranoid." Vaughn's hands kept polishing invisible dust from his cufflinks. Fans surged, candles waving like torches. One woman screamed that her daughter still heard the band playing in dreams. Police pushed back, batons clacking a grim echo of concert security lines. Between witness segments, Anna watched the gallery's emotions rise and crash like surf. Parents of guitarist Rafe Colton clutched one another, whispering memories of backyard gigs amplified through gutted radios. Lena Ortagano, Zach's mercurial photographer girlfriend, paced the aisle, snapping photos from crouched angles. Certain her Leica could trap the instant a lie formed. A burly biker in a crimson bee vest roared, Find the suits who booked that death trap. Before deputies wrestled him to the asphalt outside, leaving the air sharp with sweat, bourbon, raw despair, and echoing howling oaths. After lunch, the charter company's maintenance chief faced the panel, wiping engine grease onto a trembling handkerchief. He swore the Learjet left the hangar clean as a whistle. Yet, under brusque cross-examination, admitted that 3 log pages covering earlier flights flown by the same unnamed captain were missing. Pressed for explanation, he shuffled dog-eared binders and muttered, "Pages must have torn loose in the gale." The excuse clanged like a cracked cymbal. Anna wrote one word in bold ink, deliberate. Missing paperwork meant no oversight, no accountability, and, inevitably, very likely culpable secrets. Inside, radar technicians wheeled in a cathode scope displaying the flight path. The trace curved southeast away from Miami, then duplicated. For 17 seconds before both blips blinked out. Could that ghost return be a second aircraft? Anna asked. A possibility, the tech admitted. Transponder spoof, or someone flying close. Whispers rippled across the gallery. 2 planes meant pursuit, rescuer, conspiracy. Anna's gut favored the darkest option. During recess, Anna reviewed manifests atop an upturned crate. The charter listed Captain Harrison Polk, yet witnesses remembered a nameless aviator everyone called simply Captain. No first name on the flight plan. She circled the blank space twice. Vaughn appeared, minus cameras, sweat beading. "You think I buried them," he said quietly. "I think someone on that jet expected exposure," Anna replied. He gave a thin laugh. Zach saw ghosts in every mirror. Yesterday he accused the drummer of backmasking satanic messages. Anna closed her file. "Did he accuse you?" Vaughn's eyes flicked to the runway, shimmering with heat. Every star needs a villain, agent. Storms hide useful things. He walked off, shoulders sagging. Afternoon testimony came from controller Miguel Alvarez, eyelids red from sleeplessness. He described lightning like camera flashes, then a steady light tracking the Learjet, predatory, deliberate. Anna felt the word puncture her ribs, -predatory. Evening settled. Families were escorted to motels. Soaked posters clung to chainlink. Breslow told Anna to rest, but obsession trumped orders. She returned to the dim radar room and advanced the tape frame by frame. At the 39th minute, she uncovered a faint metallic clunk followed by a pneumatic hiss like a pressure door sealing. Immediately after came Zach's "he knows." If the cockpit door locked mid-crisis, someone had isolated themselves or been shut out. Rain hammered the roof. The storm felt personal now, pounding for answers. Anna pocketed the original microcassette, violating protocol, and stepped into the parking lot where puddles reflected sodium lights in liquid gold. Overhead, thunderheads crawled east, clearing a ragged window of stars silent, indifferent witnesses. The next week's search vessels found only driftwood and a single life jacket. Funding faltered, headlines moved on. The hearing adjourned with cause undetermined. Anna filed for reassignment to Washington. On her final day, she mailed herself a padded envelope marked "Black Honey Unresolved Evidence." Inside were the tape, annotated transcripts, and Polaroids of the ghost blip, insurance against bureaucratic amnesia. As her plane climbed north that night, she imagined the Learjet pilot's last sight, moonlit breakers waiting like open jaws. She vowed not to let truth sink beside them. 9 years will pass before an unmarked CASSETTE lands in her mailbox and the music starts again. Anna Ortega hadn't touched a case file in years. Washington had swallowed her like rain in cracked asphalt, dozens of lost person reports. Hollow investigations, every page less real than the one before. She'd become a ghost in a sea of bureaucrats, eyes glazed, pencil tapping. Until the envelope arrived, no return address, no note, just a single unmarked cassette in a battered mailer that smelled faintly of mildew and old paper. The moment she held it, her fingers tingled like they were remembering something her mind hadn't yet caught up to. She shut her office door, clicked the lock, and pulled out her relic of a Walkman, a protest against digital sanitization. The cassette clicked in place, the tape word. Then, Zach Lovell's voice, raw, off mic, frustrated. Rafe, I'm not stupid. You think I don't know what this is? That demo wasn't leaked, it was sold. A pause. The second voice, quiet. Cliptrafe, Colton, Zach, you need to calm down. No, I need to burn it down. You sold out the mix, sold me, for spins, for what? A gold plaque from the suits. There was a sharp clang, maybe a stool kicked, maybe a snare hit, a third voice murmured in the background. Beck, the drummer. Anna could barely make it out. Something like, it's not worth it. Just sign the deal. Zach again, furious now. You weren't there when they said Lena can't shoot the cover. You weren't there when Vaughn threatened me with breach. You're all just click, static, silence. Anna sat frozen, eyes locked on nothing. This was recorded the day before the crash. Her hand shook as she rewound and played it again. The tension wasn't theatrical. It was rot festering beneath their glossy vinyl facade. The tepper, literal piece of lost time was evidence. Real. Undeniable. It whispered everything the reports couldn't say. She flipped open her old case file. Untouched since 1982, the folder yellowed at the edges. Her notes on Vaughn Mercer's testimony were circled in red. Never directly denies Zach's paranoia. Anna wrote 4 words beneath it. Zach wasn't paranoid. Outside her office, the world hummed along. Co-workers filed expense reports, slurped vending machine coffee, and argued about air conditioning settings. Inside her head, a storm reignited. 3 days later, she sat across from Elaine Colton, mother of guitarist Rafe. The woman looked years older than Anna remembered, skin tight against bone, makeup too thick, a pearl necklace hanging limp against a faded blouse. She hadn't seen her son since 1981. Not even a body to bury. Anna placed the tape recorder on the table. Someone sent me this, she said. It might be hard to hear. Elaine nodded, jaw clenched. The tape hissed to life. Zach's accusations. The tension. Rafe's defensive tone. The implied betrayal. Elaine didn't speak until the end. Rafe was proud of his art, she said, but he hated the industry. He never trusted Vaughn. Always said they'd chew them up and spit them out. Anna leaned in. Did he ever talk about a deal behind Zach's back? Elaine paused. There were rumors. Rafe said, there were strings. He didn't pull, but they moved anyway. Anna's pulse quickened. Did he ever mention someone named Lena, Zach's girl, the photographer? Elaine's voice softened. Rafe admired her, but he said she'd get Zach killed someday. Too many secrets. Too much ambition. Too much ambition. Anna wrote it down, underlined it twice. Anna's next stop was a dive bar in Daytona, where Black Honey played one of their final shows, captured only in grainy VHS. She bribed the bartender to unlock a back room, laid out her documents, and played the tape again. In the quiet hum between words, she began to hear the shape of a story. Zach knew something. Rafe feared exposure. Vaughn stayed silent. Lena vanished. The band had been fractured long before the plane lifted off. Anna tracked down Sasha Kim, their studio engineer back then. Now retired, Sasha lived in a trailer on the edge of Ocala, surrounded by cats and old speakers. Sasha smoked Virginia Slims and answered the door in a bathrobe. You the Fed? She asked. Used to be, Anna replied. Sasha smirked. Still got the fire. I saw you grill Vaughn in 81. Thought you were gonna climb over the desk and bite his face off. Anna played the tape. Sasha listened, dead silent. Then she lit another cigarette. Yeah, she said. That was the Tuesday before the flight. Zach stormed into the booth after that. Made me promise I'd never erase that take. Did you? Anna asked. Of course not. But a week later, someone broke into the studio. Only thing gone. That reel. Anna stiffened. So how did I get this? Sasha shrugged. Someone made a copy. Maybe Zach, maybe Lena, maybe even Rafe, trying to cover his own ass. But it means someone out there still cares. Anna stood. Her hands no longer trembled. Do you know what they were arguing about? Sasha stared out the trailer window, into trees that creaked like tired memories. They signed away publishing rights to a shell company. I don't think Zach ever knew. The others were in on it. Vaughn, too. He made sure the label got full control. And, in exchange, she didn't finish. Anna didn't need her to. That night, Anna sat alone in her apartment, listening to the tape one final time. The argument, the betrayal, the boiling rage under every syllable. She pressed pause. Zach had died. Angry but worse, he'd died right and now. Someone wanted her to finish what he started. The wreck hadn't been found. But storms always bring things back to shore. Some truths Anna realized. Don't drown, they wait in black water. July 17, 1981, 2 days before the crash. The band's last rehearsal took place in a dim warehouse behind a boarded-up skate shop in Overtown, Miami. The walls were stained with sweat, beer, and the ghosts of 100 dreams that never made it past a demo tape. Zach Lovell stood alone in the center, a vintage Les Paul hanging from his shoulder like a burden. The others milled in corners, tuning, whispering. Watching him, the way soldiers watch a captain who's starting to unravel. Lena crouched beside the amp rack, adjusting her lens. Her camera clicked in bursts, framing Zach's silhouette through loops of mic cable. She wasn't just his lover, she was his memory keeper, his final witness. Again from the bridge, Zach said, voice low but iron. Rafe Colton hesitated. Zach, man again, Zach repeated. They played, but it was off. The tempo staggered. Beck's snare hits lagged. The keyboard's ghosty hum wandered. Zach dropped out midriff, yanked off his guitar, and flung it to the floor. It slid into a cymbal stand with a crash that echoed like gunfire. You can't fake the pain, he snapped. Not in this one. If it doesn't bleed, it's just noise. Rafe rubbed the back of his neck. We're tired. Everyone's fried. Let's take 5. No, Zach said, glaring. We take 5, then we take forever. We've got one shot, one album, one legacy, and you're all treating it like a warm-up set in Tallahassee. Lena's camera snapped again. She never flinched. Beck sat on the bass drum, head in hands. We didn't ask for this, Z. You pulled us into this world. You begged me to, Zach fired back. You think? I wanted to be your prophet. No one responded. A silence grew. Thick breathing, then the door swung open. Vaughn Mercer entered in full sleeves, mode white blazer, sunglasses indoors, and the smile of a man who'd signed deals behind every back in the room. You sound like a drowning cat in a blender, he said, grinning. Good thing the real magic's already on tape. Zach stepped forward. What are you talking about? Vaughn raised an eyebrow. Didn't Rafe tell you? We finalized the studio mix without. You ran it through mastering, punched up the vocals, added some synth layers for radio. You touched my vocals. Only to polish, Vaughn said. You were all gas, no breaks. The label wanted something more. Streamlined, Zach's face changed, anger melting into something colder. Betrayal. Lena zoomed in on him, catching. The exact second, his jaw set like stone. Who signed off? Rafe stepped forward, but said nothing. That was answer enough. Zach chuckled, dry and sharp. So it's like that. Zach, Rafe tried, you weren't supposed to find out. Like this? We needed this deal. No, Zach said, turning to Lena, they needed it. I just wanted the truth in the tape. Vaughn pulled a flask from his pocket, took a sip. Truth doesn't sell, sweetheart. Hooks do. Zach walked past him, toward the coffee station in the corner. He opened the cabinet. His hand hovered. He looked back at Lena, eyes narrowing. Did you drink from this? He asked. She shook her head. Not yet. Zach reached in, pulled out a small paper packet, tripped open. He sniffed it, frowned. He held it up. This smell like cinnamon to you. Beck shifted uncomfortably. Just a mixer. From the studio lounge. Chill, man. But Zach didn't chill. He tucked the packet into his jacket, then grabbed Lena's hand. We're done rehearsing. What does that mean? Rafe asked. It means the next song we play will be the last one, Zach muttered. And I don't want your fingerprints on it. That night, Lena's Leica went missing. She left it charging by the mixing board while she stepped outside to smoke. 10 minutes later, it was gone. She tore the warehouse apart looking for it. Nothing. Inside that camera were dozens of photos. From that rehearsal, Vaughn slipping something into the coffee, the ripped packet, the look on Zach's face. Proof. She reported the theft, but no one at the studio had seen anything. Vaughn was already gone, according to the intern, but Lena knew. He'd taken the camera to erase the last frame where truth still lived. Back at the motel, Zach pressed play on a beat-up tape deck, layering vocals over his own scratch track with nothing but a mic and grief. Lie to me. Lie to me, tell me I'm fire. Lie to me, sell me for hire. Blackwater rising, Blackwater wide will you swim with me, or will you hide? Lena sat beside him, silent. After the song ended, Zach turned and whispered, "We leave for Miami tomorrow. But this plane ride, it's not just a gig." She tilted her head. "Then what is it?" His answer chilled her. "A test, to see who survives the chorus." By morning, the band was packed and ready. Zach kissed Lena's forehead and held her hand for 5 full seconds longer than usual. In his eyes, resolve, resentment, and something else like he knew the plane was never coming back down the way it took off. Lena didn't ask what he meant. She just clicked one last photo, a candid frame-blurred shot of Zach walking toward the jet. Smiling, but not with joy, with knowledge. August 2000, Atlantic Ocean, 98 nautical miles southeast of Key West. The sonar pinged again, a hollow, distant echo, then silence. Lieutenant Malik Price leaned forward in his seat aboard the Navy survey vessel USS Vengeance. Eyes locked on the monitor like it owed him a confession. Beside him, a grainy image sharpened a long metallic shape tangled in coral, half buried in silt. "Could be commercial wreckage," said the sonar tech. Price didn't blink. Zoom. Focus on the tail section. The letters materialized like a whisper from the past. N90HL, the missing Learjet, Black Honey's final ride. Within 24 hours, Anna Ortega stood on the deck of the Vengeance. Sea spray soaking her blazer, eyes wide with something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the naive kind, the dangerous kind. The kind that tasted like salt and revenge. "They found it by accident," Price told her, leading her down to the operations bay. "We were mapping a subduction line. Didn't even expect to hit wreckage." "In this quadrant, and how deep?" Anna asked. "Almost 3,000 feet. Pressure down there would turn your skull into oatmeal." Anna swallowed, heart racing. "Send the sub." Inside the cramped viewing chamber, Anna watched the Navy's minisub, Artemis, descend into the pitch-black trench. The cameras lit up the seafloor in ghostly blues and greens, the ocean's silence broken only by the soft mechanical whir of the sub's arms. The jet came into view like a corpse from another world. Its fuselage lay cracked, but mostly intact. Tail twisted into reef rock, wings buried like broken limbs, and the cabin door still shut. "What's the read on the hatch?" Anna asked. Price leaned closer to the readout. "Sealed." From the inside, Anna's blood ran cold. So no one escaped from the main cabin. Not through that door. The sub's lights swept the interior. Debris floated like ghost seat cushions, a crushed snare drum, a tangle of headphone cords. Then the beam landed on them. 2 skeletal forms, buckled into the back seats, still holding hands. Anna gasped, paused the feed. Zoom in. The camera pushed closer. Zach's signature. Leather jacket, now tattered, still clung to brittle ribs. Next to him, a female skeleton in a polka dot blouse. Blouse Darlena, their fingers were intertwined. Bone against bone, they never let go, Anna whispered. Price shook his head slowly. No sign of the others, just those 2. The pilot responded. Cabins otherwise empty. Something glittered between the bodies. "What's that on the floor?" Anna asked. The sub-pilot guided the arm carefully toward it, retrieving a small, charred object. Looks like a cassette tape, said Price, surprised. That thing's been down here nearly 20 years and didn't dissolve. Anna took it. Like a relic, it was blackened, crusted with silt, but one label was still legible. Track 0. Lie to me, back on the ship. The tape was gently cleaned and sealed in an evidence pouch. Anna held it like a holy artifact. This was their last song, she said. He wrote it 2 nights before the crash. I remember the lyrics. I heard them in a motel room while the FBI was busy blaming weather and ghosts. Price studied her. 2 people dead, others missing. Door locked from the inside. No distress beacon. You still think this was an accident? No, Anna said, gaze hardening. I never did. That night, Anna stood alone on the deck, staring out at the ocean. Waves smacked the hull like a ticking clock. Her mind ran back to the wreckage. Why were Zach and Lena the only ones buckled in? Why were their hands still joined? And where were Rafe, Beck, and Vaughn? The fact that no bodies had been found for them was a red flag. A disturbing possibility took root. Someone left that plane before it crashed. The next morning, Anna was granted access to Artemis for a manned descent. Price was skeptical. You sure? You want to go down there? I need to see it, Anna said. Myself. Inside the sub, Anna felt the temperature drop with every meter. Light disappeared. Her own reflection flickered in the glass holder, now haunted, but not broken. When they reached the fuselage again, she asked the pilot to open the emergency raft hatch. 2 chutes missing, he said. There were supposed to be 6. Anna's heart sank. They jumped. They got out, but how? Someone opened the tail emergency exit before impact. Probably mid-air. Who? She already knew. Beck, or Rafe. Maybe both. Vaughn wouldn't jump, he'd push. Back on the surface, Anna locked herself in her quarters and stared at the tape. Track 0. Not a song, a confession, a message. She didn't dare play it yet. Not without backup, not without proof, but she did write 2 names on her notebook in capital letters. Rafe Colton, Beck Delhi, both presumed dead in the crash. Neither body found. Anna searched the Navy's old crash photos again. Burn marks. Missing seat rows. No sign of blood on the cabin floor. It looked less like a crash site and more like a scene scrubbed clean. She needed financial records. Discreet tracking. And Sasha Kimda, sound engineer, had once said the mastering reels were never where she left them. This wasn't a mystery anymore. This was a crime scene at the bottom of the ocean. Anna lit a cigarette, exhaled slowly, and whispered to herself. They played their encore too early. Now we finish the set. She closed her notebook. The truth hadn't drowned. It was rising. 3 days after the wreckage was confirmed, Anna Ortega sat aboard a humming Navy chopper slicing through the clouds like a blade through wet cloth. The black cassette marked Track 0. Lie to Me burned. A hole in her coat pocket. She hadn't slept. She hadn't wanted to sleep. Not when Zach Lovell was finally speaking from the grave. Across from her, Lieutenant Malik Price looked skeptical. You're seriously taking that tape down there? Anna nodded. It went down with them. It's coming back with us. The Artemis. 2 submersibles slid silently into the ink of the Atlantic, cables trailing like a tether to the living dot inside. Anna felt the familiar claustrophobic hush wrap around her ex. At this time, the pressure didn't come from the water. It came from the weight of 20 years of buried betrayal. As the ocean swallowed them, the temperature dropped. Condensation beaded on the metal walls. Then the cabin filled with a dull ping. There, the pilot said, and the wreck emerged. Twisted, silent, accusing. The Learjet's frame lay like a closed casket wedged into sea rock. Cabin windows shimmered with algae, and sea anemones bloomed like bruises along the wings. Inside, Anna saw the Bodies again, Zach and Lena, unmoving, still holding hands. Their love story frozen in cold salt water. But this time, she didn't look away. The sub's robotic arms moved delicately to the rear of the fuselage. Opening the tail hatch, the pilot reported. Hydraulics hissed. The camera panned. Anna leaned forward. Pause. Zoom in. 2 seat harnesses, cut clean, not ripped. sliced. And where chutes would have been secured, nothing. This wasn't panic, Anna whispered. This was planned. Back on the surface, Anna and Malik reviewed the footage in the control bay. 2 parachutes gone, 2 seats cut. Malik rubbed his jaw, which means 2 of them survived. Anna nodded, and left Zach and Lena behind. On purpose, Malik frowned. You still think Vaughn was involved? I think Vaughn knew, she replied. And I think he made damn sure no one else ever would. She held up the cassette. And now it's time to hear what Zach wanted to say before they killed him. They used a lab in Key West with vintage audio gear. Anna insisted on analog playback, no digitizing, no cleaning, just the raw hissy truth. The tape rolled. Static, then the click of a mic being adjusted. Zach's voice, hoarse but resolute. If you're hearing this, it means they got me. Or they tried to. Pause. I found the contract. Rafe and Beck signed it behind my back. They gave Vaughn full control of the master rights in exchange for a guaranteed European tour. Lena found the papers. Click, shuffle, they told me. To stay quiet, Vaughn said the label would bury me if I refused to sign. I said let them try. A breath, but that's not the worst part. Another click. The pilot, they hired someone new, quiet guy, no license on file. Didn't say a word, just nodded. I asked where our regular guy was. Vaughn said he had visa issues. Bullshit, click. I think this is a setup. If something happens on this flight, if we don't make it, need someone to know they planned it. The tape warped. Then, a whisper. I don't trust the air. Something's in the cabin. I taste metal. If they jump, check the chutes. Then, silence. Malek turned off the player. Anna sat back, her face blank with fury. He knew, she said. He smelled it in the air. Vaughn either paid that pilot, or he was the pilot. Malik leaned on the desk. So what now? Anna stood. Now we expose them. Anna's next stop was the National Sound Registry Archives in New York. Deep in the basement vault, she found Black Honey's unreleased demo reels, labeled but never processed. Track was missing from the final release. In its place, a hollow pop song called Thunderheart. She filed an official request to pull the mastering logs, the engineer on file. Sasha Kim. Sasha met her in a cafe near Union Square. She looked tired, but not surprised. You heard it, didn't you? Sasha said, sliding into the booth. Track 0, Anna nodded. Zach knew what they were doing. Sasha stirred her coffee. The last thing he ever told me was, they can take the stage, but they can't take the truth. Did you keep any of the raw takes? Anna asked. Sasha looked up. You mean the backups I wasn't supposed to make? Anna's face didn't move. Sasha smiled slowly. Come by my place tonight. Sasha's apartment was a living museum of analog Defiance reel decks, tube amps, vinyl stacks, and a fridge full of expired Red Bulls. She handed Anna a plastic bag with 6 unmarked tapes. Everything. They didn't want you to hear. Anna turned one over. In faded pen, it read, Rafe 3 a.m., Confession, uncut. Sasha looked her dead in the eyes. They weren't just trying to erase Zach, she said. They were trying to rewrite the band. Make it theirs. Vaughn wanted them alive, but not equal. Zach was the heart. Without him, they could be repackaged. Felt the weight of it all pressing into her chest like a stone. They planned to survive the crash, she said. Take the insurance, take the masters, make the band whatever Vaughn could sell. And Lena? Sasha asked. Anna's voice broke slightly. Collateral. As Anna left the apartment, she made one final call, an encrypted line. Old contact. Former NSA, I need financial records, she said. Offshore, Cayman Islands. Name Vaughn Mercer. On the other end, the voice simply said, Already got you'll want to see this. The next morning, the files arrived. Deposits dated July 22, 1981. 3 days after the crash. Recipient, Vaughn Mercer. Source, Sunburst Records, Memo. Project 9X, final installment. Anna stared at the screen. The ocean still crashing in. Her ears, They hadn't just betrayed Zach, they'd cashed him in, and now they were going to pay. The man calling himself Beck Deli was playing drums at a dingy biker bar in Flagstaff, Arizona, under the name Johnny Noose. The crowd didn't know who he was, and he liked it that way. He played tight, clean, and loud, no fills, no flair, just rhythm. He hadn't spoken to anyone from his past in 19 years. Until she walked in, Anna Ortega, black coat, steel eyes, worn-out recorder in one hand, subpoena in the other. Beck saw her from the stage and missed a beat for the first time in 2 decades. They met after the set behind the bar near a stack of sticky kegs and beer crates. Anna didn't blink. "Did Zach know you were going to jump?" Beck said nothing. She stepped forward, pressing the recorder into his chest. "Because he didn't jump, he stayed. With Lena, and you what? You clipped your belt, kicked open the rear hatch, and disappeared?" "I didn't want to die," Beck said, voice gravel. "No," Anna said. "You wanted to survive him." He leaned against the cinder block wall and looked up at the flickering security light. "Rafe made the deal. Vaughn sold the rights. I didn't even know until it was too late, so you went along with it." "No, I tried to warn Zach," Beck said quietly. "But he was already wired for war. He wasn't gonna give in. He said the truth would outlive all of us. And instead," Anna said, "he died in a sealed plane, hand in hand with the only person who believed him." Beck's eyes welled, but didn't break. "We never meant to kill him." Anna's jaw tightened. "But you let him die anyway." Silence settled in like fog, then Beck said something that chilled her to the marrow. "It wasn't supposed to crash." She blinked. "What?" "The pilot, he wasn't hired to wreck it. Just to make it disappear long enough for us to be ... rebranded. Vaughn said we'd resurface later. New names, new tracks. Zach was never going to let that happen. So Vaughn changed the plan," Anna said coldly. Beck nodded once. "He always had backups. Where's Rafe? I haven't seen him in 10 years. "Liar." Beck's voice dropped. "He lives off-grid Oregon, changed his name. Still writes music under pseudonyms, never forgave himself." Anna turned to leave. "Wait." Beck called Dot. She stopped. Beck reached into his jacket and pulled out a USB drive. "This is everything I saved from the original sessions. Alternate takes, arguments, a voicemail from Vaughn the night before the flight." Anna took it without a word. "I didn't kill Zach," Beck whispered, "but I didn't save him either." Anna nodded. "Neither did Judas." 3 days later, Anna found Rafe Colton in a cabin near Crater Lake. He answered the door with a guitar slung over one shoulder and a look in his eyes like he hadn't slept since the 80s. "Anna," he said, "you shouldn't be here." "Neither should you," she replied. They sat at his kitchen table, surrounded by wood panels, ashtrays, and 100 crumpled lyrics in pencil. Rafe poured black coffee into chipped mugs. "I heard about the wreckage. I found Beck," Anna said. "He cried," Anna said. "Then he lied. Then he cracked. Just like I expected." Rafe ran a hand through his hair. "What do you want from me?" "I want the truth. All of it." Rafe looked at the wall. "We didn't want to kill him. No one ever does." She said. "But you did betray him, and Lena." "I loved her," Rafe whispered. "She loved him, but I loved her anyway. Zach never saw how close we were getting. She told me to back off. I didn't listen." Anna leaned in. "Did you sabotage the plane?" Rafe flinched. "No, but Vaughn planned it. Zach was going to expose the label's payoffs, the tour rigging, the illegal shell accounts. Zach was too loud, too righteous. They wanted a cleaner band, a controllable band, and you were okay being the cleanup crew." Rafe's face crumpled. "He was my brother, but he wouldn't compromise. We did what we thought we had to do to survive." Anna dropped the final dagger. "Then explain this." She slid the financial records across the table. $250,000, transferred to a Cayman account in Rafe Colton's alias, July 22, 1981. 3 days after the crash, Rafe stared at it like it was a ghost. I never spent it, he whispered. Never even touched it. You're going to, Anna said, to pay for his memorial. His eyes met hers, and then, you're going to testify. On record, on camera. I've got the Navy, the tapes, the wreckage, Beck's statement. But your words. That's what will shatter Vaughn's empire. Rafe's shoulders slumped. He looked out the window, into the mist and trees. I used to hear his voice when I played, he said. Then one day, it stopped. I guess that was the day I stopped being worth saving. Anna stood. Let's make sure no one ever forgets his song again. He nodded slowly. I'll tell the world. Back at her hotel that night, Anna listened to track 0 again. Zach's voice vulnerable. Defiant, already halfway to legend. Lie to me, lie to me. Tell me I'm fire. Blackwater rising. Blackwater wide, will you swim with me, or will you hide? She pressed pause, no more hiding. 3 weeks later, the lights rose, not on a concert stage, but on a courtroom podium. The Florida Federal District Court wasn't used to spectacle. But that day, the air inside buzzed like a soundcheck before a sold-out show. Camera crews lined the back. Fans and survivors packed the benches. The media dubbed it the Black Honey Hearings. Anna Ortega stood at the center, not as a prosecutor, not as an agent, just as a woman who refused to forget the sound of a dying man's voice on tape. Zach Lovell Rafe Colton sat at the witness table, flanked by 2 federal marshals. A shadow of the man from stage posters. No longer wild-haired, no leather jacket, just a solemn man with trembling hands and a jaw he refused to let shake. Across the aisle sat Vaughn Mercer. Still smug, still in a tailored suit, still wearing cologne that couldn't mask rot. His defense team argued this was nothing more than a publicity stunt. No crime, no crash report proves intent, no verified motive. But Anna didn't argue. Theory, she brought evidence. Exhibit A, the recovered cassette from the crash site. Zach's final voice memo. The courtroom held its breath as the tape played. Zach's weary voice filled the silence like a ghost back from exile. If something happens on this flight, I need someone to know. They planned it. Gasps rippled through the benches. Vaughn shifted but didn't speak. Exhibit B, the Navy's footage of the sealed cabin, the cut parachute straps, the empty seats. Projected on the wall, it was more haunting than any photograph. Zach and Lena, still holding hands beneath the black Atlantic. Anna looked directly at Vaughn. Tell them you didn't know. Say you didn't order the pilot switch. Say you didn't deposit $250,000 into 3 shell accounts within 72 hours of the crash. Silence. Then the crowd's murmurs turned to growls. Exhibit C. The Rafe Colton testimony. Anna placed a worn microphone on the table. Rafe adjusted it, exhaled, then stared into the camera's eye like it was a loaded barrel. Zach wasn't paranoid, he said. He was the only one seeing straight. He admitted everything. The backroom deals, the ghostwriter contracts, the fake tour promises, the label's offer to cut Zach loose quietly. They told us the jet would just disappear, just long enough for us to be reborn with a new sound. Zach refused. He said truth mattered more than fame. Anna asked the final question. Why didn't you warn him? Rafe's eyes shined. Because I didn't have the spine he did, and it killed him. Outside the courthouse, the media spun like flies over Honey. Zach Lovell's name trended for the first time in decades, no longer just as a lost rock god, but as a truth-teller who'd been silenced. Old fans emerged with bootlegs, original vinyl, scribbled lyrics. Musicians came forward, saying they'd sampled Black Honey without knowing the real story. A cult band was reborn, not as a legend, but as a case study in betrayal. Vaughn Mercer's lawyers filed for a plea: manslaughter, corporate fraud, intent to conceal criminal negligence. He took 20 years without parole, still swore he was just cleaning up an artist's mess. Anna called it poetic. The man who tried to rewrite history would now spend 2 decades watching his face become the villain in documentaries. Beck, Dilley accepted immunity in exchange for cooperation. He left Arizona and opened a small music school in Detroit, free lessons for underprivileged kids. He named the studio Track Zero. Rafe Colton disappeared after the trial. Last known sighting was in Nova Scotia, carrying nothing but a guitar and a notebook. Some say he plays under a different name at coastal pubs, never charges, always ends the night with the same song. Lie to me, tell me I'm fire, ... Anna Ortega retired shortly after. But she didn't disappear, she gave a TED Talk, wrote a book. Title Echoes Over Black Water. She closed it with the line, "The ocean didn't keep the truth, the silence did, and silence, like music, only lasts until someone plays the next note." Zach Lovell's remains were buried beside Lena's in a quiet cemetery in New Orleans, that their headstone read, "Still holding hands, 1979, 1981, not forgotten, not forgivable." In 2003, Track Zero was finally released as a digital single. No Estudio Polish. Just the raw tape. Zach's voice trembling on the edge of anger and beauty. It hit #1 in 37 countries, and somewhere out there, deep in a vault of warped tapes and forgotten demos, a voice still lingers. Zach, telling the world to stop lying. To tell the story right. To never let silence win. And thanks to Anna Ortega, they did in single quotes to It Was Raining in Nashville the night. Black Honey took the stage again, not in person, of course. Not with Zach, not with Lena, but in spirit and screens, in strings. In a sold-out tribute show streamed live across the world. The echo never dies. Memorial concerts, staged on the 25th anniversary of the crash. Produced by a coalition of independent artists, Surviving Family, Andy S. Evan Beck Dilly, who stood behind a clear plexiglass drum kit, hair grayer but hand steady as ever. At center stage stood no frontman, only a single spotlight on a black Les Paul guitar, untouched as the crowd fell into reverent silence. Anna Ortega stood backstage, watching from the wings. Her hands were clasped tightly, the same way Zach and Lena's had been at the bottom of the sea. "You okay?" asked Sasha Kim, now head of a non-profit for exploited musicians. Anna nodded. "We did it," Sasha smirked. "We didn't do it. Zach did. We just made sure people finally listened." The show opened with Lie to Me, played by a revolving door of artists, one verse each. Passing the mic like a torch through time. From indie kids with patched jackets to folk legends with trembling fingers, the lyrics landed like punches. Lie to me, tell me I'm fire. Anna closed her eyes. She could hear Zach's original track, layered behind them all, rough, unmastered, pure. His voice trembled. The crowd did too. Somewhere, someone in the arena held up a sign. Zach never signed. Between sets, a documentary short aired on the massive screens, grainy rehearsal footage. Lena adjusting her camera. Zach shouting about truth. Then the crash site. The recovered wreckage, the trial. The verdict, Vaughn Mercer being led in cuffs through a sea of reporters. Eyes hidden, soul exposed. The audience watched in stunned silence. As Rafe Colton, his testimony now infamous, stood before them on screen. "I didn't kill Zach Lovell," he had said, "but I let the world forget him. Until now." Backstage, Anna finally opened the letter. It had been mailed anonymously a week earlier, with only one word on the envelope. Echo. Inside, a photo, faded water dash. Damaged Zach and Lena, standing barefoot. At the edge of a beach, the black Les Paul slung between them like a promise, and scrawled on the back in Zach's handwriting. "If no one hears the last song, it's not the last song." Anna tucked it in her coat pocket, and smiled bitterly. That was Zach, always 5 years ahead, always bleeding in verse. As the concert closed, Beck stepped up to the mic reluctantly. He tapped it once, cleared his throat. "I don't deserve to be up here," he said. "I was the drummer, the silent one. But silence killed more than the crash ever did." He paused. Zach wanted to burn down the lies. Lena wanted to photograph the truth. Me, I just wanted to stay alive, but surviving ain't the same as living. He gestured behind him. This is their stage, not mine. So, I'm gonna shut up now and let the man speak for himself. And then, they played track 0. Not a cover. Not a re-recording, the original tape. Anna had fought for months to clear it. To remaster it just enough to play through stadium speakers, but never so much that it lost its cracks, its wounds. Zak's voice filled the stadium. Raw.unpolisshed.unforgiving.u. Could hear the floor creak beneath him as he stepped closer to the mic. You could hear Lena's camera click. You could hear the ghost of what could have been. Lie to me, sell me for hire. Blackwater rising, Blackwater wide. Will you swim with me, or will you hide? Nobody moved, nobody dared. Phones stayed in pockets, tears didn't. And when the final note faded, cutting off mid-breath, the tape running out, the crowd erupted. Not in applause, but in sobs, in catharsis, in a shared exhale of truth. 2 decades. Late, 2 weeks later, Anna appeared on a podcast called Legacy Crimes. She recounted everything step by step. The cassette, the wreck, the parachutes, the hush money, the vault. At the end, the host asked, "So, was justice served?" Anna paused. "No," she said. "But something better happened." "What's better than justice?" She smiled. Remembrance. In the years that followed, Track 0 was taught in college music courses. Not just for its haunting sound, but for the story behind it. A cautionary tale of silence, of fame, of the music industry's ugliest contracts. Lena's photography, once dismissed as girlfriend ephemero, was showcased at the Met. Her candid, offstage images of Zak and the band became iconic. Zak's journals were published under the title, No Chorus, Just Fire. They sold out in hours, and every year, on the anniversary of the crash, fans gathered on that same quay, West Shoreline. They didn't bring candles, they brought radios. And at exactly 10:04 p.m. the time the jet went down, they pressed play on the same song. Zak's voice rose over the ocean like a warning, like a vow. Blackwater rising, Blackwater wide. Anna Ortega lived long enough to see it all. In her final interview, when asked why she never took another case, she simply replied, "Because one voice was enough to keep me listening forever." And in a sealed vault at the Library of Congress, surrounded by silence, one tape remains, track 0, faint hiss, Zak's breath, then his whisper, "This isn't goodbye." The documentary opened in absolute darkness. No music, no voiceover, just a single quote, "White against black. Legends don't live forever, but echoes do." Zak Lovell, then, a crackle, a hiss. The grainy sound of track 0 played Rowan mastered uncut. While old Super 8 footage rolled, Zak tuning his guitar, Lena laughing behind her camera, Beck smashing a cymbal mid-rehearsal, Rafe smoking on the studio roof. Black Honey live again. Fade to Black Honey. Anna Ortega's final project was more than a documentary. It was a resurrection. Premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, the film didn't just rehash the tragedy. It unpacked it layer by layer, voice by voice. Anna narrated most of it herself, with the same firm clarity she'd brought to the courtroom, but she let the tape speak when it had to. There was the moment Zak looked straight into Lena's lens and said, "If they erase me, make noise until they can't." The audience didn't breathe for 5 full seconds. The second half of the film cut deeper. Secret contracts, missing parachutes, a timeline too perfect to be coincidence. And then came the unreleased clip. Anna had kept it under lock for years. It was from a rehearsal the night before the crash. Zak and Rafe, alone in the warehouse. An argument that ended with a devastating truth. "Zak, you think fame's worth my funeral?" Rafe, "No, but maybe survival is." Zak, quiet. "Then you're already dead." The crowd at Tribeca cried openly. Not just for Zak, not just for Lena, but for every unheard voice buried in the music. Industry's walls. After the film's release, Track 0 climbed the charts again, breaking a world record as the first posthumous demo to hit #1 twice, 25 years apart. Zak became a symbol not just of lost genius, but of defiant truth. Lena's photographs now hung in exhibits in London, Tokyo, Berlin. One of her most famous shots, Zach mid-shout in a storm, rain streaking across his face like war paint, was used in global protests against industry exploitation that it was captioned, "Still holding the mic," and Anna Ortega. She retired from storytelling. Completely moved to a quiet seaside town, taught creative writing to high school kids. When reporters asked her why she stepped back, she only ever gave one answer: because the story finally ended the way Zach wanted it to. Years later, a college student researching for their thesis visited the Library of Congress's audio vault. They were looking for protest folk songs from the 60s. What they found instead was an unlabeled reel tucked into a box marked unverified audio, BA. It was warped, dusty, no notes, just a whisper scratched into magnetic tape. Zach's voice, barely audible, said, "This was never about a band, it was about how truth sounds when it's not afraid." Black Honey was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame posthumously. All for original members. Anna gave the acceptance speech. Short, simple: "I was never part of the band, but they're the reason I never stopped listening." At the very end of Fade to Black Honey, the screen goes black one last time. No credits, just Zach's voice. Barely above a whisper. They thought it ended in silence. But I wrote it. To echo, somewhere on a vinyl turntable in a basement full of static and dust, the record keeps spinning. Lie to me, sell me for hire. The sea never gave up all its secrets. Not even to Anna Ortega. Years had passed since Fade to Black Honey tore the lid off the grave. Since courts closed, names were buried, and Zach Lovell became more than a man. He became myth. But even legends hum in unfinished chords. Anna knew this the moment she received the envelope. No sender, just her name, in crooked pen, as if written. Mid-turbulence. Inside, one thing, a photo. It was grainy. Clearly taken with a cheap phone or a shaky hand, but it showed a face. Rafe Colton. Alive. Smiling. On stage. Last week. In Belize she flew out in silence. No media, no Sasha, no Sasha's lawyers, just her, a camera, and a notebook full of ghosts. The bar was small, tucked into a forgotten street near the port. Flickering lights, 1 amp, no sign. She found him. On stage, tuning a beat-up acoustic. Same hands, same posture, same sad fire in his eyes. The crowd, maybe 12 people, total, clapped politely. They didn't know him. He was just the guy with the voice, but Anna did. She waited until the final note, when the last chord lingered like a breath that didn't want to leave. Then she stepped forward. "Didn't think I'd see you again," Rafe said. "You almost didn't," Anna replied. "You disappeared after the film." He looked away. "Didn't feel like I belonged in the credits." "Too late for shame," she said, sitting across from him at the back table. "People sing your words now. They cry over your bass lines. You're a ghost with royalties." "I don't keep the money," Rafe said. "Sent it to a non-profit Lena used to volunteer with." Anna raised an eyebrow. "The same Lena you let die in a sealed jet." He winced. Took a sip of something clear and strong. "Why did you fake your death?" "I didn't," he said. "Vaughn did. I just didn't stop it. And now," he looked at her. Eyes hollow, but honest. "Now I sing. One town at a time. No label, no name. Just sound. You know you'll never be anonymous again," she said. "The internet's already found you. Someone tagged your setlist yesterday. I don't mind being seen anymore," he said. "I just don't want to be forgiven." Anna nodded slowly. "You won't be. But you can be remembered differently." Back in her hotel room, she uploaded the photo to a private server. No press, no push. Just archived truth. And then she made a call. Not to Sasha, not to Beck, not to the networks, but to a high school girl in Indiana who'd messaged her 2 years ago. Girl who'd covered Track Zero on TikTok. Her version had racked up 3 million views. Anna told her, "If you want to meet Rafe Colton, I think he's finally ready to talk." Weeks later, a new video surfaced online. Grainy footage, Belize bar, acoustic version of Black Water Wide, with Rafe singing lead. At the end, the girl takes the mic. Some songs end too soon, but some come back louder. The video goes viral overnight. Beck Dealey saw the clip from his Detroit music school. He smiled, cried, then uploaded a video of his own, just him on drums. Slow and stripped down. Caption: still counting the beats, Sasha. Kim added a new chapter to her memoir. Tape doesn't lie. The Black Honey tapes hit the bestseller list in under 24 hours. In it, she wrote, Zach knew he'd never be the one to tell the full story, but he made damn sure someone else could. And Anna, she didn't publish, didn't post. Instead, she did one final thing. She returned to the wreck. With the help of the Navy and some quietly interested philanthropists, she funded a private expedition. They raised the Learjet wreckage from the Atlantic. Piece by piece, a museum exhibit was opened 6 months later. The cabin that sang a Black Honey memorial inside, Zach and Lena's seat, remains. Lena's camera, still corroded but intact, the original tape deck that recorded track 0, and at the center, the preserved cockpit, door still sealed, still silent. The first day the museum opened, hundreds stood in line. They didn't come for conspiracy, they came for closure, a chance to stand in front of the final scene and hear what Zach tried to say before the world cut him off. As the crowd filtered out, one little boy asked his mother, was he famous? She smiled, brushing a tear. Not the kind with money. He looked up. Then, what kind? She pointed at the speakers playing track 0 on loop. That kind, she said. The kind that never stops playing. And in the center of it all, behind reinforced glass and salt-trusted metal, the echo pulsed. The cabin, HUMMED. The silence roared, because truth, once told, doesn't stay buried, it floats like wreckage, like melody, like memory. They called it the last session. A closed room, one mic, one take, no producers, no edits, no second chances. The room was in Chicago, rented for a single night. Anna Ortega, now gray-haired and slow-moving, stood in the corner, just watching, not as a journalist, not as an investigator, but as the last witness, because the man sitting in the booth, adjusting the mic, was Rafe Colton. No stage name, no escape. Just Rafe. 20-5 years too late, and still trying to make it right. He looked at the engineer. No click track. She nodded. You sure? Zach didn't need one, he said softly. I don't either. The red light blinked. On. Rafe closed his eyes, and began to sing. The song had no name. He'd written it alone. At sea, on a notebook soaked with guilt and salt. It was a lullaby for ghosts, and it sounded like this. I took the fall, but never landed, held the chord, but never played. Truth was loud. But I stayed silent, paid the price, but never prayed. Now the water's still and colder. Now the echoes sound like shame. But if you hear me in the static, then I guess I'm not too late. Outside the booth, Anna's hand clenched tighter around the faded photo in her coat. Zach and Lena, barefoot on the beach. The guitar between them, the unwritten chorus. She whispered, one more note. Zach, you got it. When the song ended, Rafe stepped out of the booth. No applause, no producer notes, just silence. Keep it, the engineer asked. He nodded. Keep it. Anna looked at him. That all of it? He smiled for the first time in years. That's everything I had left. The track was released 6 months later. Titled One More Song, no marketing, no music video. Just a Bandcamp link, and a quote. This is for the ones who stayed too quiet, too long. R.C. It went viral within 72 hours, not because it was perfect, because it was honest. The tremble in his voice, the scratch of the old mic, the breath before the last line. It all sounded real, and that was enough. Anna died a year later, peacefully. No fanfare. Her ashes were scattered in the Atlantic. Not far from where Zach and Lena's plane had been found, a small plaque was placed on the beach in Key West. Anna Ortegashi listened when the world forgot to. Beck Dealey gave a final interview. At her memorial, she was louder than all of us, he said. But not with noise, with truth. The world kept spinning. But every year, in 100 corners of it, something happened. Bars turned off the TVs, radios paused, people stood still, and at 10:04 p.m., on the anniversary of the crash, they played track 0. Still scratchy, still cracked, still brilliant, followed by one more song. Back to dash back the way they were meant to be. Universities studied it. Black Honey was taught as a case of cultural rebirth. From silence to spotlight, from sabotage to salvation. Zach's journals became part of the Smithsonian archives. Lena's photos printed on currency in her hometown in Mexico. Sasha Kim's memoir became required reading for music business majors. Rafe Colton never toured again, but in every town he passed through, he left one thing behind: a handwritten lyric sheet, always the same message at the bottom. Don't wait until they're gone to tell their story. And one day, in a small record store in Portland, a new band appeared. For kids, no manager, no label. Just one scratched cassette they'd found at a garage sale. They called themselves Black Honey Revival. When asked why, they said, because music like that doesn't vanish, it just hides until someone listens. And so the tape rolled on. Across decades, across oceans, across silence, you can still find it, if you look. That sound, that truth, in bothments, in bootlegs, in back corners of broken stages. It hums, like thunder from below, like a heart refusing to flatline, like Zach whispering into the void, this isn't goodbye. This is the encore.